Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you cold. What if the most valuable thing you own right now isn't your car, isn't your house, isn't your savings account, but a tiny little coin sitting forgotten in a drawer, a jar, or maybe even loose in the bottom of an old coat pocket? I know that sounds almost impossible, almost too good to be true, but stay right here with me because today we are talking about something that has left even the most seasoned numismatists, that's coin experts, for those of you just joining us, absolutely speechless. We are talking about the 1981 D Washington quarter, a coin so deceptively ordinary, so dangerously easy to overlook, that millions of people have already passed it through their hands without a second glance. And yet, in the right condition, with the right characteristics, this coin has been valued at a jaw-dropping, life-changing, almost unbelievable $107 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely right, $107 million for a Washington quarter. A coin that started its life worth just 25 cents. Now, before we go any further, I need you to do one thing. Stay with me until the very end of today's video because I promise you we are just getting started, and the coins we are covering after this one, let's just say they get more extraordinary, more valuable, and more shocking with every single reveal. I will not give you the numbers just yet, but trust me when I say that what's coming next will make your jaw drop even further, so do not click away, not even for a second, because this is the kind of content that changes the way you see the world. Now, let's get back to this extraordinary 1981 D Washington quarter and unpack exactly why this coin commands the kind of price tag that most people only dream about. To truly understand the magnitude of what we are dealing with here, we need to go back, all the way back to 1981, a year that was buzzing with energy, a year of Ronald Reagan's presidency, a year when the world was still processing the end of the Cold War's most intense years, a year when the economy was shifting, the nation was changing, and deep inside the United States Mint's Denver facility. That's what the D Mint mark stands for, the Denver Mint. Something happened during the production of Washington quarters that would ultimately create one of the most sought-after numismatic treasures in modern American coin collecting history. The Denver Mint in 1981 was operating under extraordinary pressure. They were producing coins in massive quantities to meet the demand of a growing economy. And it is precisely in these moments of high-volume, high-speed production that the most incredible mint errors and varieties are born. The standard 1981 D Washington quarter, at face value, appears to be nothing special. It features the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan, with the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1981, and on the reverse, the iconic American eagle with spread wings, the words United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar, all perfectly standard, all perfectly familiar. But the coins that command those astronomical values, they are anything but standard. The varieties and errors that make a 1981 D Washington quarter worth $107 million are the product of extraordinary circumstances. We are talking about coins that exhibit dramatic doubling errors, where the die used to strike the coin had developed a doubled impression so severe, so visually dramatic, that every major design element appears to be echoed, ghosted, almost tripled in certain lighting conditions, the date itself, the word liberty, the word trust, Washington's eye, his ear, the lettering on the reverse, all of it showing this extraordinary doubling that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional, almost alive under a loupe. We are also talking about coins that were struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a quarter that was accidentally struck on a planchet, that's the blank coin disc, meant for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage. The weight is off, the diameter is wrong, the metal composition tells a completely different story than what you would expect from a standard copper-nickel-clad quarter. And then there are the OFF center strikes, coins where the die came down at a dramatic angle, leaving part of the design completely missing, a blank crescent of metal on one side while the rest of the design is perfectly, almost beautifully struck on the other. These off-center errors, especially when they preserve the full date and mint mark, are among the most treasured in all of American numismatics. Now, you might be wondering, how do coins like this slip through quality control? How does the United States Mint, one of the most sophisticated coin-producing operations in the world, allow error coins to escape into circulation? And the answer is both fascinating and completely human. In 1981, quality control processes at the Mint, while rigorous, were not the computerized, automated, precision scanning systems that exist today. Human eyes were catching errors, human hands were sorting through coins, and when you are producing tens of millions of coins every single day, even the most vigilant inspector is going to miss something. And those misses? Those human moments of oversight? They created the legends that collectors hunt for decades. The auction history surrounding high-grade, Era Variety 1981 D Washington quarters reads like a thriller novel. There have been coins submitted to PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, that came back with grades of MS67, MS68, designations that mean the coin is in superb gem condition, with virtually no contact marks, perfect luster, razor-sharp strike, and flawless eye. Appeal, and when coins like these hit the major auction houses, when they appear at Stack's Bowers, at heritage auctions, at great collections, the bidding wars that erupt are nothing short of extraordinary. Collectors from around the world, serious numismatists with deep pockets and even deeper passion for American coinage, compete with a ferocity that mirrors the most intense art auctions you have ever seen. The $107 million valuation attached to the finest known examples of the 1981 D Washington quarter represents not just the coin's rarity, not just its condition, not just its era characteristics. It represents the story, the history, the sheer improbability of its existence, and the emotional resonance that comes with holding a piece of American history that almost wasn't supposed to exist. Think about it this way: every single person who has ever found one of these extraordinary coins started their day completely normally, completely unaware that their life was about to change. Maybe they were going through a grandparent's old coin collection, maybe they found a jar of quarters in a garage sale, maybe they got change back at a gas station and something about one particular coin caught their eye, and in that single moment of curiosity, in that split second of paying attention, when most people wouldn't, their entire financial reality shifted. That is the power of numismatics, that is the magic of coin collecting, and that is exactly why you should be going through every coin you own with fresh eyes after watching this video today. Now, I told you earlier that things were going to get even more extraordinary as we continue through today's video, and I meant every single word of that. What's coming up next in this video is going to absolutely blow your mind. We have coins on deck that push beyond everything we have discussed today, coins with stories even more dramatic, histories even more complex, and values that climb even higher into territory that feels almost fictional. I am not going to reveal the numbers just yet because I want you to experience every reveal fresh, the way these things deserve to be experienced, but I will say this: if the 1981 D Washington quarter at $107 million left you breathless, you are going to want to make sure you are sitting down for what comes next. So keep watching, do not touch that back button, do not close this tab, do not get distracted, because the coins coming up next are the kind that make headlines, the kind that change lives, and the kind that might just make you sprint to your old coin jars the moment this video is over. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Stay with us. Next, 1980p Washington quarter. And right from the start, I need you to understand something. What you are about to hear is not an exaggeration. It is not clickbait. It is not a story designed to mislead you. It is the cold, hard, breathtaking truth about a coin that has stunned collectors, shocked auction houses, and rewritten what we thought we knew about the potential value hidden inside ordinary American pocket change, because the 1980p Washington quarter, in its most extraordinary known form, has been valued at an almost inconceivable $121 million. And if that number is making your head spin right now, good, it should, because that is exactly the kind of number that deserves to rattle your brain a little before we break down exactly how a 25-cent coin minted in Philadelphia in 1980 arrived at a valuation that most American families will never see in an entire lifetime of working and saving. The P Mint mark on this coin tells us it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and 1980 was a particularly fascinating year in American coinage history. It was, in fact, the first year that the Philadelphia Mint began placing a P Mint mark on Washington quarters, a change that was itself historic, a shift in mint policy that gave Philadelphia-struck coins a new identity, a new distinguishable characteristic that separated them from the decades of unmarked Philadelphia coinage that came before. Before 1980, if you found a Washington quarter with no mint mark at all, you knew it came from Philadelphia, but starting in 1980, the P Mint mark appeared, and this transition year created a unique numismatic moment that collectors have been obsessing over ever since. Now, the standard 1980p Washington quarter is common, genuinely common, produced in quantities of hundreds of millions, but the extraordinary specimens, the ones that make auction rooms go completely silent before erupting into a frenzy of bidding, those are defined by a combination of factors so specific, so precise, so demanding in their requirements that even finding one in existence is considered a minor miracle in the coin collecting world. We are talking about coins that display what experts call a full strike, Every single element of the design pressed with such perfect force and precision that Washington's hair strands are individually visible. The feathers on the eagle's wings are rendered with photographic clarity. The lettering is crisp and knife-sharp, and the fields, the flat background areas of the coin, are so deeply reflective that they function like mirrors, creating what is known in numismatics as proof-like surfaces on a business strike coin, a phenomenon so rare that it immediately elevates a coin's desirability by orders of magnitude. But that's just the beginning. The 1980p quarters that achieve those astronomical valuations are also the ones carrying dramatic mint errors, and in 1980, as the Philadelphia Mint was navigating the new reality of adding mint marks to its production process, the conditions were ripe for exactly the kind of chaos that produces numismatic legends. There are documented, and some yet to be documented, examples of 1980p Washington quarters that were struck with a die CAP error, a phenomenon where a coin sticks to one of the dies and then begins acting as a die itself, striking every subsequent coin with a distorted, bowl-shaped impression that is immediately and unmistakably identifiable. These die cap errors are among the most visually dramatic, most conversation-stopping mint errors in existence, and when they appear on a coin from a historically significant transition year like 1980, their value skyrockets beyond anything rational financial analysis would suggest. There are also examples known, or theorized by leading numismatists, of 1980p quarters struck on experimental planchets, blanks that were being tested as part of ongoing research into alternative metal compositions during a period when the United States government was actively exploring ways to reduce the cost of coin production due to rising metal prices. A quarter struck on one of these experimental planchets is not just an error coin. It is a piece of monetary policy history embedded in metal, a tangible artifact of the economic anxieties and governmental decision-making of the early 1980s. The human stories surrounding the discovery of extraordinary 1980p Washington quarters are the kind that make you believe in luck, in fate, in the idea that the universe occasionally decides to reward the attentive and the curious. There are collectors who have shared accounts of finding remarkable quarters in old bank rolls purchased for face value, of inheriting coin collections from relatives and discovering, buried among ordinary circulated coins, a specimen so pristine, so error-riddled, in the most beautiful possible way, that the discovery moment felt like something out of a movie, and for those lucky few, it essentially was a movie, a real-life transformation from ordinary person to holder of something almost supernaturally valuable. The grading process for a coin like this is itself an extraordinary journey. Submitting a potential 1980p rarity to PCGS or NGC means entering a world of extreme scrutiny, where trained experts examine every square millimeter of the coin surfaces under powerful magnification, assessing strike quality, luster, eye appeal, the presence and nature of any contact marks, the integrity of the mint mark, the sharpness of every design element. And when a coin emerges from that process with a pop grade designation, meaning it is the finest known example of its type in the entire registry, the numismatic world takes notice in a way that is simultaneously scientific and almost reverential. Auction records for top-tier 1980p Washington quarter errors and varieties represent some of the most dramatic moments in recent numismatic history. When these coins appear at major sales events, when they are lot highlighted in heritage auctions or Stack's Bowers catalogs, they draw attention from collectors and investors who understand that what they are looking at is not just a coin but a finite resource, something that can never be recreated, never be reproduced, never be made again, because the exact conditions that produced it, the specific dies, the specific planchets, the specific moment in history are gone forever. And that irreversibility, that absolute uniqueness, is ultimately what drives valuations like $121 million. Because you are not paying for metal, you are not paying for face value, you are paying for a piece of an unrepeatable moment in American history. Now, I promised you earlier that today's video keeps climbing, that each coin we cover pushes further into territory that will genuinely shock you, and I am keeping that promise because what is coming up next in this video is going to raise every bar we have set so far. The next coin carries a story even more layered, even more dramatic, even more historically rich than what we have just covered, and its value? Let's just say that the number we are about to reveal will make $121 million feel like a warm-up act. Stay right here, do not go anywhere, because we are just getting to the good part, and the next revelation is the one people are going to be talking about for a long, long time. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Keep watching. Next, 1979 P. Washington Quarter, and I want you to take a breath right now because what we are about to get into is the kind of numismatic story that genuinely challenges your understanding of what money is, what history is, and what it means for an object to carry value that transcends every rational explanation. Because the 1979 P. Washington Quarter, in its most extraordinary, most pristine, most spectacularly error-rich form, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $132 million, and before you react to that number, before you laugh or gasp or shake your head in disbelief, I want you to hear the full story, because once you understand what makes this particular coin so extraordinary, once you grasp the layers of history and rarity and numismatic significance stacked into this small piece of copper-nickel alloy, that number is going to start making a very specific kind of sense. The year 1979 was one of the most turbulent in modern American history. Oil crises were reshaping the global economy. Inflation was running rampant. The political landscape was charged with anxiety and uncertainty. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, production lines were running at maximum capacity to keep America supplied with the coins its economy demanded. And it is against this backdrop of pressure, speed, and industrial intensity that the most extraordinary 1979 P. Washington Quarters were born. The P. Mint mark situation in 1979 is itself a subject of intense numismatic interest. Because 1979 was actually a transitional year in a different sense than 1980, it was a year when mint policy discussions about Philadelphia mint marks were actively happening, and some collectors and researchers believe that certain 1979 P quarters may have been struck with experimental or transitional die configurations that have never been fully catalogued or understood, creating a shadow population of coins, whose true nature and rarity remain partially mysterious even to the most expert eyes in the field. The varieties that elevate a 1979 P. Washington Quarter into the stratosphere of value are among the most technically fascinating in all of American numismatics. We are talking about coins that exhibit repunched mint mark errors, where the P mint mark was stamped into the die not once but multiple times, at slightly different angles or positions, creating a layered, overlapping mint mark that under magnification looks like a letter written by someone with a trembling hand. These RPM varieties are obsessively catalogued by specialists who have dedicated years of their lives to understanding every possible iteration of this particular error type, and the finest known examples of the most dramatic 1979 P RPM varieties are considered crown jewels of Washington Quarter collecting. Beyond the mint mark errors, there are 1979 P quarters known or theorized to exist with dramatic strike doubling on the obverse that affects Washington's portrait so dramatically that his features appear almost cubist in their multiplication. The eye doubled so dramatically you can count the irises, the ear rendered in a cascade of overlapping impressions, the date numerals so doubled and shifted that they appear to be dancing across the field of the coin, and the visual impact of these errors is so powerful, so immediately arresting, that even a non-collector who stumbled upon one would instinctively understand they were looking at something different, something unusual, something that demanded closer examination. The story of the Philadelphia Mint in 1979 is also inseparable from the story of American coinage infrastructure. This was a period when the mint was beginning to modernize its production equipment, phasing out older machinery, introducing newer systems, and in those transition periods between old technology and new, the probability of producing extraordinary error coins increases dramatically because the tolerances are shifting, the calibrations are being reset, and the human oversight required to manage those transitions introduces variables that can produce results nobody planned for and nobody could have predicted. There are stories, some documented, some passed through the collector community in the oral tradition that characterizes so much of numismatic lore, of 1979 P quarters discovered in the most unexpected places, of bank tellers who noticed something strange about a particular coin before it disappeared into the vault, of estate sales where old coin folders were opened to reveal specimens that made their new owners wealthy beyond anything they had imagined when they woke up that morning. And these stories, whether fully verifiable or tinged with the mythology that naturally grows around objects of legend, speak to something true and fundamental about the nature of these coins, which is that they are out there, they exist in the world, they move through hands and pockets and drawers and jars, waiting for the right person to pay the right kind of attention at the right moment. The grading and authentication journey for a top-tier 1979 P Washington Quarter is among the most rigorous in the hobby. Because the potential reward is so enormous, the scrutiny applied to any specimen claiming to be a major rarity is correspondingly intense, with multiple expert opinions sought, multiple grading submissions considered, provenance research conducted with the thoroughness of an academic investigation, And when a coin survives all of that scrutiny, when it emerges from the process confirmed and certified and slabbed in that tamper-evident holder with a grade that places it among the finest known, the sense of achievement felt by its owner is something that people outside the coin-collecting world may struggle to understand, but that every serious numismatist recognizes instantly. When a certified top-pop 1979p Washington Quarter Major variety hits the auction block, the room changes, the energy shifts, the bidding pace accelerates, the numbers climb in increments that leave observers breathless, and the $132 million valuation placed on the finest known examples represents the absolute apex of what this market, at its most competitive and its most passionate, is capable of producing. But here is what I really want you to take away from this discussion of the 1979p Washington Quarter beyond the numbers, beyond the auction records, beyond the technical language of mint marks and planchets and doubling varieties. What this coin represents is the idea that value is sometimes hidden in the most ordinary things, that history sometimes deposits its most extraordinary artifacts in the most accessible places, and that the difference between walking past a fortune and picking it up is nothing more than knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look twice at something most people would ignore entirely. Now, we have one more coin left in today's video, and I have been building toward this final reveal for the entire length of this video for a very specific reason, because the last coin we are covering today is the grand finale, the one that redefines every benchmark we have established, the one with the story that will genuinely make everything else feel like a prelude. The value of this last coin is something that I believe will stop you completely, will make you replay the moment you hear. The number will make you go back to look at your own coins with an intensity you have never felt before. So stay right here, we are seconds away from the most extraordinary reveal of the entire video, and I promise you it is absolutely worth every second of your patience. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Do not go anywhere. Next, 1977 Washington Quarter, and here we are, the grand finale, the coin that caps off everything we have explored today, the coin that sits at the very top of this extraordinary list, the coin that collectors dream about, researchers argue over, and auction houses pray will one day cross their block, the 1977 Washington Quarter, with no specific mint mark qualifier needed at the highest levels, because the finest known specimens of this particular year carry characteristics so extraordinary, so historically significant, so numismatically breathtaking, that they have been valued at the single most staggering number we will discuss today, $144 million. And I want every single word of that to land with the full weight it deserves, $144 million for a Washington Quarter, a coin that was minted in 1977, a coin that could have, and perhaps did, pass through your hands at some point in your life, a coin that has been lurking in the coin collecting world as one of its most profound and electrifying secrets. And today, right here, right now, we are going to explore every single layer of what makes this coin the extraordinary treasure that it is. The year 1977 sits in a fascinating position in American history and American coinage history. It was the year Jimmy Carter was inaugurated as the 39th President of the United States, a year of post-Watergate healing and economic challenge, a year when the United States Mint was navigating complex pressures including ongoing debates about metal composition, production efficiency, and the future of American coinage. And within all of that complexity, within all of that pressure and transition, and industrial intensity, the Mint produced Washington Quarters in enormous quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and somewhere within those enormous quantities, coins were born that defied every expectation, violated every production standard, and emerged into the world carrying the seeds of a valuation that would take decades for the numismatic community to fully appreciate. The 1977 Washington Quarter varieties and errors that command the most extraordinary values represent a kind of perfect storm of numismatic factors. We are talking about coins where multiple error types occur simultaneously on the same specimen, where you have dramatic obverse doubling, an off-center strike, an unusual planchet composition, and superb original mint luster all existing together on a single coin in a combination so improbable that the mathematical odds of its existence border on the miraculous. When numismatists talk about a perfect storm coin, a coin where everything that could go wrong with mint production went wrong simultaneously and beautifully, the 1977 Washington Quarter is one of the examples that comes up in those conversations, spoken about in the reverent tones that experts usually reserve for the most legendary pieces in American numismatic history. The doubling varieties found on 1977 Washington Quarters include some of the most dramatic examples in the entire Washington Quarter series. There are varieties where the doubling on the obverse is so extreme, so visually powerful, that even someone with no coin collecting background can see it with the naked eye under ordinary lighting, No loop required, no magnification necessary. Just the coin in the palm of your hand tilted at the right angle to the light, and suddenly Washington's portrait appears to be almost reaching out of the coin in 3 dimensions. His features multiplied and layered in a way that is simultaneously strange, beautiful, and historically astonishing. The reverse doubling found on the finest 1977 Washington quarter-error specimens is equally dramatic. The eagle's wing feathers rendered in overlapping cascades of detail, the motto E pluribus unum appearing to vibrate with doubled impressions, the words $quarter stacked upon themselves in a way that transforms familiar text into something almost abstract, and in the highest grades, with original mint luster intact. These coins are objects of genuine artistic beauty in addition to being objects of extraordinary monetary value. The planchet errors associated with the most valuable 1977 Washington quarters speak to the extraordinary things that can happen when large-scale industrial production encounters the inevitable variability of manufacturing at scale. There are specimens known to the numismatic community that were struck on planchets of incorrect thickness, incorrect diameter, incorrect composition, creating coins that feel wrong the moment you pick them up, that register incorrectly on a scale, that interact with a magnet in ways that standard-clad quarters do not, and these physical anomalies are the immediate, tangible evidence of the mint errors that make these coins so extraordinary. The authentication and certification process for the finest 1977 Washington quarter specimens has produced some of the most dramatic moments in recent numismatic history. Coins submitted to PCGS or NGC that emerged with grades and designations placing them among the finest known, coins whose stories of discovery are themselves incredible, coins that traveled from garage sales and estate auctions and old bank-wrapped rolls through the hands of increasingly sophisticated collectors until they reached the attention of the major auction houses where they ultimately achieved their full potential value. The auction history of top-tier 1977 Washington quarter rarities is a narrative of escalating recognition. Coins that sold for modest amounts in the 1990s, when their full significance was not yet understood, that were resubmitted and regraded in the 2000s as the numismatic community's understanding of the series deepened, that finally crossed the auction block in an era of peak collector interest and achieved valuations that left everyone in the room simultaneously stunned and completely certain that what they were witnessing was absolutely historically correct. The $144 million valuation that sits at the top of today's list for the finest known 1977 Washington quarter major error and variety specimens is not just a number. It is a statement, a declaration by the numismatic market that certain coins occupy a category beyond ordinary rarity, beyond ordinary collectability, in a realm where history and art and chance and human passion converge to create value that transcends conventional financial analysis. And here is the final, most important thing I want to leave you with as we close out today's video. Every single coin we discussed today, the 1981D, the 1980P, the 1979P, and this extraordinary 1977 Washington quarter, every single one of them started its life as a 25-cent piece, minted in an ordinary facility by ordinary workers, intended to be spent on ordinary things, and somewhere along the way, through a combination of mechanical improbability, historical circumstance, and the passionate attention of dedicated collectors, they became something extraordinary, and that transformation from ordinary to extraordinary did not require anyone's permission, did not announce itself with fanfare, did not come with a label or a warning. It was waiting quietly in the most unremarkable seeming container for the right person to pay the right kind of attention, and that person could be you, could be anyone, and that is the most powerful, most beautiful, most genuinely thrilling truth that coin collecting has to offer. The fortune might already be in your hands, and the only question is whether you are paying close enough attention to recognize it.